Hi, my name is Yang Han, co-founder and CTO at StackAdapt. I'll be at Tech for Canada in June during Toronto Tech Week. StackAdapt is an advertising and marketing technology company that helps both agencies and brands drive their business growth. We do this by using personalization, automation, AI to ensure we can target people across relevant channels such as connected TV, display, audio, video, email channels. And so we want to be able to help businesses reach their customers at the right time and really ensure that they can get positive return on their investment so that they can grow their business. We started around 11 years ago with two other co-founders, Vitaly and Ildar. We all met at the same year, quite serendipitously. Ildar and Vitaly worked at a marketing agency, and they too were working on the same account, and I met them around the same time. I'd come back from New York working on financial technology, focusing a lot on the automation, real-time trading. And we found that in the advertising world, there was a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of ways in which, technology could be improved to drive more automation, personalization, and to use data to really help brands just get better results and outcomes. And so we started this company with that in mind. How can we really build a next generation platform that can really focus on the outcomes that matter for the end user? The high level goals of the company has remained the same, which is to help businesses grow. The strategies and the tactics to execute that has evolved over the years. When we started with one advertising channel. Many people would know us when we first started as a native advertising platform that focused on the native channel, which was rising at the time because it was high performing. It created a seamless user experience. But we later found out just focusing on one channel cannot allow you to reach customers as much as possible. We really want to expand and grow big, and you really utilize the data to be everywhere to really help maximize outcomes. And so we quickly expanded to every other channel that exists in the advertising ecosystem, from the traditional banner displays to the audio, the videos, and then connected TV came about. And just recently, we announced our next evolution into connecting marketing with advertising together. So going into the email marketing channel. And our goal is to continuously unify both advertising and marketing channels so that users can utilize their own data to drive automations and personalization off of it so that you can get the most results as possible, and then utilize insights from these results to be able to continuously optimize in a 360 flywheel with AI, really helping you be able to really understand your user and maximize these results. The trends happening in advertising, I'd say, is very similar to other industries that you see, in which there is more and more automation and technology being put in play that leverages data to help users make decisions that were previously manual before. So similar in advertising, the concept of manual trading was really heavy when we first started. So a human had to pick and choose every little decision to be made in an advertising campaign, such as identifying exact placements, websites, and being able to optimize results and link that together in a very manual way. And that became very difficult as you have very complex, you have more and more data that enters the ecosystem. You have to manage thousands of campaigns globally to really drive the most results. And with the proliferation of also a lot of different channels in the ecosystem, and also all these different verticals and insights that come into play, the machine is at a point in which it can learn off of this and really make certain decisions in real time a lot more better than a human. And this is evident in the evolution in, various, not just ad platforms, but just platforms in general, where we're now seeing a lot less human being needed, that needs to be placed in the middle to make very little minute decisions to drive larger outcomes. And it's really becoming more AI assisted in every part of business operation, and marketing included. So we're seeing a gradual evolution here, and we're just trying to build a technology to help our customers enable that. One big trend is that as we continue to build a platform that can fully integrate, data sources, that can integrate all these different channels, this data is a flywheel in which it enables our systems to get a lot more intelligent and to utilize not just an understanding, let's say, from one vertical. So most, let's say, marketing platforms specialize in a certain vertical, let's say e-commerce or B2B, but so they don't really know what's happening or a whole unified user profile in other verticals. Like if I'm an e-commerce platform, you don't know someone's travel plans and you don't know someone's, let's say, what business they're in. But us being a platform that has always been multi-channel, but also multi-vertical, our goal is to leverage that multi-vertical expertise and unified understanding of a user to our advantage, such that over time, we'll get a much more stronger understanding of the user, a much more unified view of the customer journey. And that really allows systems to be able to drive a lot more personalized outcomes and a lot more stronger results. Our systems are connected to a huge portion of the internet. Our systems alone, we listen to over 9 million requests every single second happening on the internet. So let's say a user visits a website on their desktop or an app on their mobile app, very likely that signal hits our systems. Connected now with our expanding capabilities to connect to customers' CRM systems, CDP systems, we can really now connect the dots together of what users are doing, not just in the outside world, but also related to an individual business. What products are they buying on your store? How are they engaging with different types of products? And how do we then connect the dots together to really drive a much more automated, intelligent, AI-driven strategy, because every user is unique. So if you have a very manual strategy that's one size fits all, you're not really going to be able to maximize your outcomes to all the different profile sets of individual users that are out there. So that's where the proliferation of data and the evolution of AI really comes into play now to really make things super hyper-personalized, very automation-driven, by being able to unify and leverage all the data and insights together to enable that to occur. I'd say there's two major pieces at play here. One is, as a marketer at an agency, you have to use a lot of tools to just make the whole end-to-end planning, execution to analytics cycle work. There's over 1,000 companies in the advertising and marketing space, and they all have their very specific role in the ecosystem. And so if I'm a marketer and I want to come up with an end-to-end strategies, I have to use a lot of different tools and piece them together to make it work. Oftentimes, these are very loose integrations, if they even do integrate. And so the whole puzzle is quite disconnected. So to give you an example, if I'm an e-commerce store and I want to, let's say I have a lot of users and I want to target people that have been to my website already. This sounds very simple to do, but if you want to do this effectively, I need to utilize, let's say, a demand-side platform for programmatic channels to reach users there. I have to use a MarTech platform to do marketing channels like email, SMS, and whatnot. I might need a platform that manages my first-party data like a CDP. I have to use a dynamic creative partner for advanced personalization. And then I got partners for measurements, reporting, analytics, brand safety, fraud. There are companies that will even try to build custom AI algorithms for you, even though they barely know anything about what's unique about you or your brand. And so all these little tools are out there, but if every data set is disconnected and they don't speak to each other, where can AI and advancement of technology really come in to really understand the user holistically to drive the best decisions? It really can't do that. And so we looked at how do we start to solve this problem? How can we create a much more better experience for our customers? It really starts with finding a common thread in the whole ecosystem that really drives the essence of customer growth. One of those key essences we found is the concept of first-party data, being able to leverage what's unique about your customer in the center of all of this. And what we found is both advertising and marketing channels both utilize first-party data effectively. Research has shown that marketers that leverage first-party data well can double their revenue and reduce costs by 150%. That was done by a study by BCG. McKinsey found that if I drive personalization off first-party data, revenue can increase by another 40%. And so what it truly shows that you need to have a technology platform that can effectively utilize your first-party data, that can drive use this data to drive personalization and automate to as many different channels as possible, and then utilize this analytics and insights to continuously learn and optimize with AI in a 360 flywheel. That goes back to our company vision of building a fully integrated advertising and marketing platform that can really do all these as much as possible in one platform so that they're not disconnected. That's why we recently announced a built-in first-party data hub into our platform that can integrate with your data no matter where it is, your CRM and your CDP. We're not trying to build another CDP. We're trying to integrate your data in a privacy-safe manner so that we can utilize this for intelligence. We announced our own personalization suite connected to this, our own dynamic creative optimization engine. So now you don't have to use a third party to do this, and it's deeply connected to the channels you execute on. And we announced a new channel into the marketing sphere in email, which is just a starting point for us. But the marketing world uses the exact same strategies as advertising. So why do marketing teams have to do the same setup in two different platforms that don't speak to each other, that will also conflict and compete, trying to go after the same results as well? And then having that come back to unified 360 analytics to truly understand the whole world. The reality is you're still going to have certain platforms like a walled garden like Facebook that are still independent. They're going to have their own systems, and you're going to have to utilize those systems. And those are always going to exist, and there are more and more of those. But like, we want to counteract that with all the other channels in which you don't have to do that, in where we can make decisions in real time for you by leveraging data. These are all the programmatic channels out there that cover the desktop, mobile, connected TV. These are all the marketing channels out there. So this is very powerful. And this is, I think, just the starting point in the ecosystem in which this evolution can begin. So we're really trying to lead the way in terms of building the concept of a fully integrated advertising and marketing platform in one system to alleviate a lot of these challenges that marketers face. StackAdapt has always been one platform that is leveraged by both brands and agencies. And in terms of customers that we've been signing, it's actually a pretty even split. So we consciously design our platform such that it doesn't matter if you're an agency or brand, you're using the same platform. We do have certain capabilities in which agencies can bring in multiple brands onto their account. But for the most part, it doesn't matter if you're an agency or CMO. The goal is the same, is to drive outcomes for the end brand. And so that's why for us, we were less focused on a lot of these details in traditional advertising technology that were typically very, I'd say, agency-specific problems. And we really worked backward in terms of how do we be outcome-driven first, results-driven first, and work our way back. And that resonated with both sides, essentially. And as we go more and more in the future, with more data being in the ecosystem, with more automation, and people being more comfortable with AI, that type of platform and solution continues to resonate regardless if you're an agency and you're a CMO. And a lot of our customers, the agency works closely with the CMO in one account as well. And we built up permissions so that doesn't matter what type of user type you are, where you are in terms of the relationship, there's ways in which you can leverage the system. There's different aspects of AI and different levels of how people are comfortable with it. I'd say traditionally, if we look at when we first started, marketers were still heavily daily optimizing their campaigns to pull levers to drive outcomes. We see a lot less of that now. And over time, we see more people comfortable with leveraging KPI goals built into the platform. But we do have a responsibility as a platform to show results at the same time. So that is something we measure heavily, and we continuously have to update and innovate our models every year in order to ensure that we can truly drive outcomes for customers. We released a capability recently called multi-goal, which allows a campaign to set multiple goals from all the way from the top funnel to the bottom funnel that people may care about. For example, some customers may care about reach in addition to return on ad spend. And in addition to engagement in the middle of the funnel on your website as well. So we found that the reason why a lot of customers wanted to manually optimize is because they didn't just care about one goal. A lot of platforms think you only have one goal, but we found out a lot of marketers have multiple goals they care about, and it's actually a lot more nuanced. So we wanted to build a system in which we could take this in and understand it to really allow customers to set up multiple KPIs they care about, to rank them and weight them differently, to truly mimic what the human is actually trying to do. So I think that really took us in the next step and really allowed users to understand that, AI has gotten to the point in which it can really try to do what a human cares about, and it can also be very powerful as it drives these outcomes. Especially with more and more data involved, it gets a lot more complicated for a user to actually do this manually. You want to be able to automate a lot of things that are difficult for a human to do, and those tasks typically involve a lot of data, a lot of decisions. We still respect what a human understands as the goal, rather than letting the AI assume it knows what it needs to do. So I think that's the fine balance in which we need to be able to understand in order to make people be able to adopt AI at a greater capacity. We've had some really good feedback on how customers really start to understand and open up the universe of what they're able to do now, because previously they had to manage and all these advertising and marketing campaigns separately in different platforms. Now they're seeing, well, now we can unify under one system and have that system be able to show and understand the whole journey and the results of which side. Did it come from the advertising side? Did it come from the marketing side in terms of the results? Because typically a lot of organizations have advertising and marketing teams in which they don't speak to each other at all. They use separate platforms. But they do a lot of the same process. They manage first-party data, they upload it, they run campaigns in which to remind people, let's say, to come back to your site with a specific product, if I take an e-commerce example. So a lot of these strategies mirror to each other, but these campaigns these universes don't even speak to each other. So let's say someone does drive a purchase. How do you know if it was the advertising side or the marketing side that actually drove that result, that conversion? On our end, if it's unified under one platform, users are starting to see that now I can actually see the whole journey and understand where the result really came from, and really then be able to optimize and weight my channels in a much more holistic way, and really have teams work together closer, because we're already in a world in which AI is simplifying complicated processes. They're bringing teams together to execute towards a common goal, letting users see a whole unified view of the data. But the first step is having a platform that can really enable all that first, to really help drive organizations to reach unified outcomes. If you look at a lot of these traditional tools, they tend to specialize in just one area. So for example, if they're a CRM first, they can't actually directly understand what channels are being reached by your customers. It still requires you to send a signal and integration out to a separate platform. Even if they're both owned by Salesforce, these two software systems naturally actually don't natively speak to each other. And so you have to set up, different configurations in completely independent ways. And so it becomes very complicated to really understand what's happening and are things actually working? But if you have everything natively connected together, in which you bring the data in, let's say, if I take a simple e-commerce example, someone leaves something in their cart, and our system is able to know that because we're connected to your data automatically. It can trigger an email being sent out to remind them, but also an ad that reminds the user on all these different channels, such as on a website or on a connected TV, in a really much more holistic fashion. And so your strategies are tied together in one flow and one automation, essentially, rather than in separate systems. And then when results happen, you get a much more deeper understanding of how that result came about. And then that gives you, it's a lot more easier for not just the human, but for AI to be able to then continuously optimize to more of these results that drive possible incremental growth. The problem with a lot of these systems is the data isn't connected. If they don't know exactly what your users are doing, and it's really hard for them to truly know, am I getting results that actually matter, that are incremental, instead of those that would have happened anyways. TV channels has always been a massive segment, and we continue to see the transition from linear TV, which is more legacy now, to online connected TV. There's more and more usage of that. But connected TV also brings a lot more smarter strategies that you can leverage, because it's a lot more addressable. We can actually target users and audience off of it. However, some marketers are still used to purchasing pieces of TV spots in the traditional way, in which you're buying a spot, but it's not audience driven. It doesn't have automation. It doesn't have personalization. So we want to get the user to think, how can we, let's say, even show a personalized TV message based on the exact interactions of a product of a user on your website. So how can we have ads be totally different depending on who they get shown to, all in one system essentially, rather than everything being static? So that's something we've been working on, that, it's the type of theme, and we have a lot more releases upcoming revolving around the space, making sure everything is personalized, making sure you show something to a user based on a data point that matters to them, rather than having a lot of these fixed strategies, which will always exist and we support as well. But we really want to make sure that the user can leverage data, leverage automation, leverage AI as much as possible. 5 years ago, when COVID hit in 2020, we were 150 people in a single office in Toronto. However, most of our customers were already in the US. We had a sizable Canadian business, but the product that we built and offered could be used essentially anywhere. So for our team, they were heavily flying to the US to get a lot of business already. So a lot of the sales team was mostly out of the office and traveling. When COVID hit and we went fully remote, it really enabled us to do this essentially on steroids. And so fast forward today, we're 10 times larger. We'll be close to 1,500 by the end of the year, and we'll be across approximately 15 countries. Our biggest market is still North America, US and Canada, but we've expanded to Europe, we expanded to Southeast Asia. And I think it's because at the end of the day, every company has to do marketing and advertising. And our product was built to be multi-channel, multi-vertical. It can support large companies. It can support mid-sized ones. So companies of different sizes, different types of brands. Because at the end of the day, they all want to grow. And a lot of these strategies involving data, it can be very powerful as long as you have sufficient amount of data. So most companies that have reached a decent amount of scales will be able to leverage and benefit. And so there's so much opportunity out there. And so for us, we've naturally just grown to become a global company with global reach. And that's something we want to continuously use to our advantage, where we continue to develop expertise across all these different channels and verticals to really bring it back to understanding what really drives success. Best practices, being able to leverage data and AI as much as possible through all these shared learnings across the board as a company, so we can really help drive the best outcomes for brands. I think we always knew we wanted to become a very big business that could, essentially reach the entire, world. And we knew that we had to go beyond Canada. I think the mentality could have been different for an American company because that market is already very big. So our mindset was it had to be international from day one. So we always looked at opportunities cross borders. And I think it goes back to us being able to solve problems and being able to solve and being able to look at innovation in a much more broader way across the board to really understand what's happening in the world. Where is AI going? Where's a lot of these software systems evolving? Looking at the whole universe to find commonalities in which we can bring innovation across the board into one platform in a holistic way, to be able to have one piece of technology that can really be relevant to all these different companies. Canada is a very multicultural country. We respect people of all different backgrounds, beliefs, and so forth. And so I think we go to different markets, whether it be as for customers or hiring talent, with the same mindset of just being accepting and being very open-minded. And just, we want to be obviously very welcoming, being very employee first. And I think that also connects to the way our team works with our customer base. You may know us as a company, we're really well known for our support as much as our technology. And I think that goes hand in hand with our culture of just being very human and being very people oriented. And so, we really want to connect deep, not just internally with our employees, but also with our customers, and try to take care of them as much as possible. And I think that starts with, it's a very Canadian Canadian approach to society. Canada itself has a very strong ecosystem when it comes to, let's say, potential customers or agencies. Every type of industry in the ecosystem pretty much exists in Canada. Obviously, our first several customers were all Canadian. So having that network and that sense of belonging in Canada and having people you could connect with on that basis is obviously very useful. I'd say the other side is, our education system creates a lot of benefits for talent and industries as well. You obviously have a range of industries, some very high technology driven industries. People have a really deep understanding of innovation and thinking about how can we use technology to drive things forward as well. So they're open-minded to trying out new things. But also when it comes to building a company, being able to have access to world-class talent, world-class universities has been one of the biggest drivers. Even as we grow our company, most of our employees, especially in the technology department, I'd say, still come from Canada. And I think that speaks volumes to just how strong our talent is and how much of an ecosystem in business and technology we can continue to build as a nation. I think the reality is, in a world today where so much business and communication is already done virtually, it's the physical and in-person connections and events that actually make some of the biggest differences. That's why StackAdapt as a company, we've been driving more physical events globally across the board. Our team members, we are situated purposely close to where customers are to be able to visit them in person when they need to. So that human connection, I think, can never be lost. And it's one of the most critical drivers of business relationships, but also business growth. And so even as a virtual company, as a remote first company, as a virtual software product, we try to do as much as possible in person. And it's something that we've been actually expanding more as we go global. Especially also as you enter into like a new business or a new market, new vertical, you want to be able to start getting a very deep connection to the people on the ground before you start to then, let's say, do the rest you'll have to do virtually in today's world anyhow. I'd say every company has their own unique experiences and journey and learnings that is so invaluable to every other business going through very similar growth trajectories or challenges and situations. And I know there's so much we can continuously learn from each other. There's so many success stories out there, and there's so many opportunities for us to just get deeper in terms of how we can help each other, in terms of, continues to grow the community, grow businesses, grow relationships and connections. And overall, I think that is something that is extremely invaluable as we continue to thrive as an ecosystem in both like technology and marketing space in Canada.